Hello, everybody, and a very warm welcome here to the Wine with Jimmy channel. Welcome to a series here looking at sparkling wines, following closely the Diploma WSET, and we're going to be looking at the sparkling wines of the Loire. Now, if you have any comments or questions, you can comment on this video below. Maybe you have been to the Loire, maybe you drink these wines such as Crémant de Loire, Saumur, Vouvray, and so on. Potentially you like them with their price point, their style. Please do get in touch. It will be great to hear from you. This video is free content, but parts 2, 3, and 4 are only available to those of you who subscribe to my e-learning platform. That's over at www.winewithjimmy.com. Lots of exclusive added videos there, plus lots of training and studying resources to help you with your understanding of these topics. Well, let's rock and roll, talking a little bit about the history of the Loire for sparkling wine. So historically, the first sparkling wine cellars in the Loire were based around the Chateau de Saumur. So around the Saumur, not too far rather, from Angers. And that was due to the availability of caves that were suitable for aging the wine. Jean-Baptiste Ackerman and Jean-Pierre Apollinaire Laurence Olivier, they founded the Ackerman Laurence Firm in 1811, first focusing on still red and still white wines. Now, their names are rather complex, so hopefully I did them justice. Much more overtly complex than my name, for example. Now, after noting certain similarities between his wines and the wines of Champagne, the Ackerman family, the Ackerman business, began experimenting with traditional method sparkling wines in 1831 before marketing his first bottles in 1834. In 1840, the Ackerman firm acquired a huge network of underground tunnels and galleries which were cut from the limestone rock in Saint-Hilaire, Saint-Florent, which were perfect for, of course, storing the wine. Now, if you have read the fantastic book called Wine and War, you'll hear all about this extensive cave network in this region. Moving on a little bit, so from the middle of the 19th century onwards, the number of sparkling wine houses multiplied, and producers such as Buvay Ladebay in 1851 settled on either side of the Ackerman Laurence cellars. And so the modern traditional business of sparkling wines here in the Loire was born. These caves that we find today are UNESCO, so protected by UNESCO as a tangible cultural heritage site. You'll see here some of the caves at Chateau Mon Mouso, beautiful to walk through, of course. So the production of sparkling wine of the Loire, the total sparkling wine production accounts for about 13%, 12 to 13% of Loire appellation wines. The kind of cultural, historical, and spiritual home would be around Saumur for Crémant de Loire and Sparkling Saumur. So the Saumur, where the history really began, this is where we find a kind of spiritual home for sparkling wine here today. The production of Crémant de Loire is roughly equal to sparkling Vouvray and Saumur combined. So the more modern appellation of Crémant de Loire, of course, is now gaining a lot of recognition. About 90%, 90% of Crémant de Loire is white. And in general, the Chenin Blanc dominant wines have a medium intensity of apple and citrus with light sort of toasty autolytic characteristics. Within 2 to 3 years, the wines can develop the quite classic signature honeyed aroma, which is in fact very, very typical in still Chenin Blanc. The wines are high in acidity, most of them brut in style, but demi-sec is also made. Brut nature is increasingly popular, as it is in other parts of traditional sparkling wine production. The wines are typically mid-priced, with a few being poised at the premium price point. Then there, of course, is the Champagne connection. Now, this between the Loire and Champagne is because of the importance of sparkling wine here for both Crémant and sparkling Saumur. Major companies are owned by the wealthy Champagne houses. Bouvet-Ladabaye was owned by Taittinger for more than 40 years from the early 1970s. Gratian and Meyer is owned by Champagne Alfred Gratian. Those of you in the UK who are Wine Society subscribers, you will know their wines fairly well. And also Langlois Chateau is majority owned by Bollinger. So the appellations, in total, there are 7 appellations for sparkling wine in the Loire. 3 are really discovered in depth in the diploma on the left-hand side of your table there on your slide. And that includes Crémant de Loire, sparkling Vouvray, and sparkling Saumur. We will cover these 3 in subsequent videos. The other appellations is Montlouis-sur-Loire. So those of you who know Jackie Blot, who was a fantastic winemaker making really beautiful sparkling wines from that appellation. Touraine AOC, Anjou AOC, and Rosé de Loire AOC are the 4 that are not included in the syllabus, but I will go through them in small detail in the next few slides. So let's begin with Montlouis-sur-Loire, as mentioned from the brilliant Tailloup, which is Jackie Blot's production. Wonderful wines, the other side of the Loire River from Vouvray, for example. So this is bordered by 2 rivers, as we mentioned, the Loire to its north, and then the Cher, which is the river which goes to the south of the appellation. Now, if you follow that river Cher more up towards its source, you'll eventually get to some rather beautiful castles, including the very spectacular Chateau Chenonceau, which is lovely to visit. Now, the Montlouis-sur-Loire produces a range of sparkling wines made from Chenin Blanc. Traditional method wines are known as Montlouis-sur-Loire Mouso and must spend 9 months on the lees before sale. As of 2007, there are now 2 designations for the Pétillant wines, with the basic wines labelled as Pétillant and the higher quality wines labelled as Pétillant Original, which are essentially regulated pet nats with stricter rules. I'll go through that towards the end because it's not only just applicable to Montlouis-sur-Loire. So that's one of our first AOCs. Now, wider and around Montlouis, we have the Touraine AOC, which utilizes Touraine Mouso and Touraine Pétillant. And these can be white or pink wines. Now, the difference between these 2 generally is that Mouso is more pressured, more frothy, Pétillant less so. And that does differ per appellation. Many grapes are used, but Chenin Blanc and Chardonnay, or Arbois and Chardonnay, are the 2 traditional white blends, whilst Gamay, Cabernet Franc, and even Malbec will dominate the pink production sparkling wine. Now, both of these will require a minimum of 9 months sur lie and must be made via the traditional method. We then have Onu Mouso. These are white and pink sparkling wines made primarily from Chenin Blanc with up to 60% Cabernet Franc, Cabernet Sauvignon, Malbec, Gamay, Grolieu, Pinot d'Aunis, and it's vinified as a Blanc de Noir. It can also come in a Pétillant style as well. The pink wines typically have a very strong strawberry characteristic, and the whites are apricotty, peach, linden, and honeysuckle. So that is the other appellation. So just covering them off for now. I will go into the much more important volumetrically, but also in terms of prestige through Saumur, Vouvray, and of course the sparkling wines of Crémant de Loire as a whole. Now, I mentioned when we were talking about Montlouis-sur-Loire that they do produce pétillant over 2 designations, standard pétillant and then pétillant original, as you'll see just there. Now, in order to qualify for the pétillant original, the label, the stipulations such as the addition of yeast or sugar prior to fermentation in bottle are forbidden, and no dosage is allowed. In addition, the use of enzymes and chaptalization are also outlawed, very strict terminology, and the fruit must be handpicked, pressed in whole bunches, and the finished wine spending a minimum of 9 months sur latte before release. There is also a stipulated minimum concentration of alcohol. So basically, this is the really classic method, ancestral, you would say. So no addition of sugar and yeast is allowed, and no dosage as well, to make a real sort of pure style. You'll see this label here of Xavier. This is Le Rocher de Voilette, Pétillant Original, Montlouis-sur-Loire, as we discussed earlier. Okay, well, that brings me to a conclusion for part 1, which was discussing really the introduction to the sparkling wines of the Loire Valley, really second only to champagne in terms of their volume and their importance. Please do join me for part 2 as we discuss Crémant de Loire, and that will go over into part 3, and part 4 will be Saumur Mouso and Vouvray Mouso. These parts, 2, 3, and 4, are only available to those of you who subscribe to my e-learning platform. This is over at winewithjimmy.com. If you do have any comments or questions, please do get in touch by commenting on this video. But until next time, I am Jimmy Smith. Ciao for now. Goodbye.